Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield. Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years. Specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Love that finish, Pete.
Yep.
Good morning. It is 6:04. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
It's very quiet around here today. I forgot the students
Vacation,
are
yes.
Students are out of school. It's vacation. It's just Pete, me in the studio, soon to be joined by Dr. Akinyele Lovelace. And it is American Heart Month, so I wore my red today. I didn't wear it for Valentine's Day because we had our open house retirement gathering for Officer Mark Carbonneau, so I wore blue in honor of the police. And I just want to say, just a shout out to everyone who attended and those who sent best wishes. There were folks who couldn't make it down there, but I certainly relayed that to Mark and let them know.
Every time I tried to get out of the door that morning, something else came up.
Yeah,
oh.
Pete, I get it. It's one of those mornings. I absolutely understand that. Mark told me later, he texted me that night, and he was just overwhelmed with the number of people who were there. It was really special, meant a lot to him. We had some fun with, relaying some stories. We had a picture board for him, and he was, and I was really, really happy that Chief Petoniak was there, and John Blazczak, Officer Blazczak was there, and who else was there? Steve Dickinson was there.
All the guys that came through with.
Yeah, exactly. Eric Hall could not be, but Eric's parents were there. And Eric had called Mark the night before to say he was doing some volunteer work at some ski something judging, and it was going to be freezing. And he was not really happy about that. He would have rather been at the open house. But so it was nice to see the police department there. The mayor was there, of course, because the mayor used to be Captain McCabe, and so they were swapping, stories from 20 years ago. So it was
right.
fun. It was really fun to hear that. Many of the seniors were there. The staff was there. Veteran Services were there. City Councilor Beltrandi stopped in. So board members. So it was just a really, really nice affair. Mark was really touched. We will miss him. John Blazczak said as much as he can, he will be helping us out. And, I have everyone's phone numbers on speed dial. And I saw in the paper yesterday that I guess the city and the Diocese of Springfield have reached an agreement. So it looks like we are going to have a new home for our new police building.
Apparently a couple of donors came through.
Yeah, big donors, yeah.
Yeah, I know that's kind of been like the whole goal, I guess, all along was to sell that property. Mm-hmm. And I know the owner of the Westwood was looking into it for a long time to make a bed and breakfast. Because they were trying to market their event space, and if they had a bed and breakfast right across the street, they could market it to brides and things like that, and then they could never come to an agreement for the cost.
Yeah.
Probably because, according to the state, it was overvalued. They wanted too much for it.
Yeah.
And I understand why they're trying to pay off the note for the church they built up on Holyoke Road. So I get all the dynamics of it. Mm-hmm. But, now we have a spot, and I'm sure that, neighborhoods down here on the south side are happy. I'm not sure if it's going to improve their police response, especially if we get a major flood. But,
Mm-hmm.
I understand the logistics of it because I've been in the police department and I've been with the city for 20 years. Yeah. That if there's ever a major flood, the population center is now south of the bridge and it becomes a whole nother mess. But that's okay. I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that's the only spot that's available, that's really the only spot that's available. And I'm glad that knowing the conditions of the police department, because I worked in there for 13 years. Yeah. They do need a new station.
Yeah, they absolutely do need a new. I mean, Chief Valier and I had that conversation several times, and they absolutely do. Outdated, problems with the building, the whole 9 yards.
It was built over an underground river.
Really?
Basically. Oh yeah.
Okay.
That basement, when the water table would come up, it would flood.
Ugh.
And it would just seep through the floor.
Yeah. Ugh.
So, like,
Nasty.
if you ask Kathy Palmer, most of downtown Westfield was streams and or marshland.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It is what it is.
Well, and I know I live in West Springfield, and we have same thing. I mean, there's so many water zones, and but all of that has now been built on top of it, and we've got, and it's the same problem. You have, all
I mean, they
kinds of
mitigated the
issues
problems of the police
wetlands.
department by sealing the basement, but it still doesn't solve. It didn't solve.
Yeah,
the problem.
it's not going to solve the overall problem.
Correct.
So
Yep.
yeah. Well, it looks like they can start to move ahead with the project. Which
And no, folks, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time because the building that's going to have to be raised has a lot of asbestos in it.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
a process. This is a process.
This is just the opening kickoff.
It's the tip of that's it, Pete. It's the opening kickoff. So we have a long ways to go, but I'm having.
It's nice to know they have a site.
It is, because to be honest with you, Pete, having gone through this process with the senior center, and we looked at multiple sites and we considered all kinds of things. And do we buy a building that's already existing and try to renovate? Do we buy a building and raise it? Do we, what do we do?
Right.
It was the same kind of thing. And it was the same situation where the city, when Mayor Knappich was mayor, and that's when we were trying to, get the senior center done, he went through the same thing. We were looking to build it on property that was already owned by the city. And,
Sure.
Westfield has a ton of land. So, you kind of feel like, oh, this will be easy. But there are so many other factors that just like the police had to consider, where do the seniors live? Well, they don't live on on North Road someplace. I mean, you wanted to make it accessible to them so that, reduce the square footage of the square miles, the footprint of where you were going to be.
Yeah,
and,
sure, yeah.
All kinds of issues. And as you said too, I mean, we looked at, a lot of people said, oh, just take Fort Meadow School. Well, first of all, Fort Meadow School had its own problems, and building wise, it's an old, and it's a very tiny with no parking. I'm like, what, are you kidding me? We've outgrown it before we ever even moved into it.
Right.
So that didn't make any sense. But there are just so many factors to consider. So I'm happy that they have a spot, and they will find the same thing that we did. Once we actually had the slot, at least for us, because we had like a field, we didn't have to take a building that was already existing.
Right.
Mary Noble's estate had already burned down, so we didn't have to deal with that. But that's like another step. It's another, and there were just there were all kinds of little things that came up along the way before we could break ground. So it is a process. But you have to start somewhere, and
that's a very
they
good
have
start.
a site. They have a site, and I think generally people are happy with that. So that's a great beginning. And now I think, as you said, Pete, people just need to be aware that it will take time. It'll be a slow process, only because there are lots of steps that have to be done. And, I think, having worked now for the city for almost 20 years, it used to frustrate me, but I sort of understand now when you're dealing with taxpayer dollars, you just want to do your due diligence. You want to do all of your homework. You don't want to, not that you don't want to rush into anything, but I mean, you're held accountable to the taxpayers. So you want to get it right. And in order to get it right, it takes time. Sometimes it takes review by several committees, by council, by, all kinds of things. And I understand that.
Yeah,
now.
just like a private business is responsible to the stockholders or the investors.
Yep.
And, we're responsible to the taxpayers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
So anyway, good news on that front. How was your weekend, Pete? Good weekend or anything special?
Yeah,
we had a long weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, I worked one of the days.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's helping her girlfriend move.
Okay.
So that kind of tied up some of their time. And then Monday, the dog has been great. Poor guy doesn't have a lot of space to roam.
Oh.
So we decided we were taking him on a road trip to see how he would do. We took him from New Hartford to Hammonasset Beach, which was nice.
Okay.
And he was great in the car. He had a great time sniffing everything. And then we took him to the beach. And there were people riding horses on the beach.
Oh, my goodness.
She's like, that's a pretty big dog. He's looking at the horse going, I'm not sure what that is. But he had a grand old time, and he had a ball. So we had a good time out on Monday. So.
Excellent.
It's great for the dog. The dog really deserves to be out.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't get a lot of time out. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And the weather was decent.
It was cold.
It was cold, but,
Yeah.
it's February, so we know what that's all about.
He was having a ball. That's all that counted. We decided to have, instead of just having a day and leaving the dog behind, we brought the dog with us and had a good time. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good job.
Yep.
Well, I have gone on this crusade to, sort of reclaim rooms in my house. And so the one
now
that
you actually have time.
Well, yeah, and the one that I'm actually working on now is our basement, which is a finished basement. We actually have like a pub downstairs. It's really nice. But we had some work done, and the electricians had to go into the ceiling, so there was, stuff that got shimmied down and onto the rug. And I said, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity to really kind of go through this, because there was, it's the kind of thing where even though it's a finished basement, I go down there, Gary goes down there, we have a large screen TV, but, we don't have a lot of other people going down there. So it does tend to be a place that collects, well, we don't know what to do with this. We'll just put it in the basement. And
like everybody's basement.
Yeah, exactly. So we have part of the basement is a separate room kind of for storage, and we have all the Christmas decorations and so forth. But I just said, you know what, I'm going through all this stuff. I mean, I had stuff from my sister-in-law who passed away over a year ago. And it was just like not a ton of it, but it's just like it just piled up there. Grace had baby stuff, and I said, all right, we need to. So, Grace discovered this free website on, where you can give away things for free.
Yep.
This is like my new best friend. And they were doing this alphabet challenge this month. So like every day. So if you had I think today is U or T or something like, we're down to the end of the alphabet. So, it's been great. So we were discovering things, and it's like, okay, we're going to put this on the website. Grace is like, oh, good, that's a W. Yeah, that's coming up. We got rid of a lot of S stuff. So, but what's really great about this is that people have to, so you post a picture of it and you say this is available, and then you can't, and then people will text in, or however they do it, to say that they want it, and they tell you the reason that they want it. And then you select who gets to get the item. Because you might have, you might have just one person, that's fine. But you might have sometimes Grace put something on it. She goes, Mom, I got 20 hits in the first 15 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but people, and some people just have great stories. It's like, I want a lot of teachers, I would like this item for my classroom. We put some, I had some blocks that my seniors had made when they did a craft fair, just some soft blocks. And we already have some for the baby, and they were brand new.
Yep.
And so one woman said, she texted right away. She said, "Oh, I would love those." She said, "I have a preschool classroom, and those would be great for my really little ones." I said to Grace, sold, give them to her, that's perfect. But you have to wait 24 hours before you can commit to giving it to somebody. So that gives everybody a chance to see it. But this is, I just find this website to be fabulous because it's a great way to get rid of items that you no longer need, especially this baby stuff, Pete, because, they outgrow it in about a month.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we had a baby,
quickly, yeah.
we had a baby swing that is a gorgeous swing that Grace got off of the website. And we used it, with Charlie for 2 or 3 months, and she's now outgrown it. And, it's taking up some space for us. Well, as it turns out, Grace got several hits on that. And somebody else also put up a swing that was S. That was on S day, so I think that was Tuesday.
Okay.
But Grace said, it turns out when I came, and the people that are on this website are West Springfield and Agawam. So I guess each of the towns, because somebody in Westfield had asked me, and Grace said, I think Westfield Southwick has one. So that you're not traveling great distances. This
Right.
stuff's kind of staying right in your community.
Yep.
It turns out that the woman who's getting the swing is the wife of somebody that Grace went to St. Thomas with. She was friends with him all through St. Thomas school, so for 9th grade, kindergarten through 8th grade.
Okay.
And she saw the last name and she said, "Oh, are you related at all to?" "Oh, yes, that's my." So it's been kind of fun, and she's actually reconnected with people off of this. So anyway, that's our big thing. So we are cleaning and getting rid of and sorting, and Grace is a wonderful partner to do that because she's not at all hesitant to do that. Gary, on the other hand, we have to get rid of things while he's not around.
We get sentimental.
Yeah, and he knows.
Guys are sentimental about
and he
stuff.
knows. He looked at he said, "Oh my goodness," and we said, "Dad," and Grace said, "Dad, don't go downstairs. You don't want to know." And because he won't remember half this stuff. He doesn't even know he has it. But, but if he sees it going out, it's like, wait a minute. So anyway.
All right. In the
folks.
bullpen is our guest.
In the bullpen is our guest. We have Dr. Akinyele Lovelace joining us. It is 6:18. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC cable channel 15. It's all about the heart today. We're going to bring Dr. Lovelace in and talk about the heart. We're going to bring him in with his own song, Call the Doctor by Diamond Temple, his father-in-law.
Got this monkey on my back, got like nipping at my heels, turning on my wheels. What's this pain in my chest? No, I really don't want to gas. Appointment overdue. See, joint ain't hollered when I woke up yesterday, and I can't remember if I took my meds today. It's alright, I will remember anyway. Rock it like a two-step, then call the doctor.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:20. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles, of course, and my guest, first hour, Dr. Akinyele Lovelace from Family Medicine Associates here in Westfield.
Yep.
Now, are they going to paint that building, or is that forever?
I have no say in that.
Okay.
That has been owned by some physicians well before my time, and
were they all from Miami, or were they all dreaming of retiring to Florida?
I really, it's really unclear at the time. I think some of them had boats and some of them liked to sail, and I think that was
that was the impetus for it.
Yeah, when I first got in there were a lot of sailboats, and so we referred to one of the guys whose name was the captain. So I have to imagine a lot of it has to do with cruising and or sailing, right?
Yeah.
So respect that.
Absolutely.
I think that you're at a point where, for a lot of people, tradition matters.
Yes.
So it's a tradition apparently of having a building this color. So
I think I look at it and say, who needs GPS? Because you can just say it's the building that looks like it's straight out of Florida. It is a landmark. You go by the pink building that looks like it's out of Florida, really out of place in New England.
Very, very much.
I'm surprised they didn't go with more of a nautical type thing, which would have been more New England. But again,
I can't explain.
Stands out.
I can't explain it honestly. It does stand out, right? It does stand out. So I'm hoping that in the future they'll spruce it up a bit.
Oh yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, it's looking a little tired. That's why I asked. When I went by there, I was kind of like, the outside is a little tired, and so that was my thought. It was like, okay, are we going to refresh and just go with the same, or are they going to change it up completely?
I've got to let
we're going to let it play out.
I'm going to let the owners make those decisions.
Now, is it the same group of owners, all kidding aside, that own the building that have owned it for many years?
Yeah,
okay.
A lot of these guys.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of these guys were previous physicians in the building.
Yep.
And they still are around.
Yeah, good. Okay.
And want to. I think there was a time where owning a building.
Yeah.
Where you had doctors work.
Yep.
Was definitely part of the process of having what some would consider a successful practice in that way,
yep,
right?
Understood.
If you've got doctors working in your building, that creates some type of revenue, and it also is an advantage to, to the people that are there, right? Because you get a say in that. I think what we're starting to realize now is that obviously commercial real estate, it's been up and down for a lot of different reasons, and for a lot of people in the healthcare industry, post-COVID, we've had to redefine what coming to work looks like. And so how much space do we actually need, right? It's becoming more of a question in the outpatient space. And so that has been, it's kind of been the debate, right? When you're looking at certain parts of the industry, we take the, the insurance industry, a lot of people are working remotely. A lot of nursing now is done remotely. A lot of billing is done remotely. So a lot of the things that traditionally you would have seen done within the office setting is a lot of things we can do remotely from home. And so how do we redefine that space? So I think we're at a time and a place where we're starting to evaluate how we practice medicine and how are we maximizing and utilizing that space most effectively. And I think what we've done, to your point about the building, I think for us as a practice, we're making that conscious thought about, are we actually as efficient as we need to be within the space? Because it is, our office and our practice we have the entire first floor of that building, which is great. and we have a lot of resources that a lot of practices at this point don't still have.
Don't have, yeah.
Which I think is amazing. At the same time, though, if we're looking to continue to bring more people into the fold, more providers into the fold, and care for a larger portion or the people who just need to be cared for, how do we redefine that space so that we can continue to have efficiency in caring for our patients and to stay in close contact with them? So it's definitely a thought, but
it's a balance.
But as for the paint, I have no say in that.
Okay, so it still looks like it's like straight out of Miami, but that's okay. So that's where you are located.
That's where it's at.
No, everybody knows where that is.
Yeah.
So
excited about that.
February is Heart Month.
That's right.
American Heart Month. It's always I think a time to sort of go back to. I was thinking about this morning. And when you think about older adults, and you think about physical issues with older adults, I think the first thing you think about are heart issues. And it kind of made me wonder, well, why is that? We think about arthritis, and yes, we think about mobility, we think a little bit about dementia, but I think that number one thing that people are nervous about as they age is their heart.
Agreed.
And I'm wondering if there are just some things that are just it's the heart and it just is going to wear out, or are there some things that, obviously there are some things that we can do to live a healthier lifestyle to, sort of prolong that. So this is a huge topic. Where would you like to start with this?
I think to your point about older adults and being aware of heart disease, I think is key. I think that's a good start, simply because the majority or a good portion of deaths that occur in the United States, right, revolve around heart disease.
Okay.
And so I do think it being February, Valentine's Day and heart awareness and those things, I think it's so key that we are having this conversation just as much as, whether or not we want to debate whether or not Valentine's Day is just basically a day to give gifts for the lady in your life. I think it's also important to also highlight the fact that we need to pay more attention to the heart health of the ladies and the women within the United States, and that we probably should focus a little bit more effectively on heart disease and what that looks like for those who identify as female. I think that's extremely important. And so, yes, to your point, older adults and specifically women, I don't think we pay enough attention and give them enough due for what happens when we're talking about heart disease. And for a lot of times, we tend to write it off. We want to say that it's anxiety, or we could go back to hysteria, right? And give your wife a Coke, right? So there's always been that kind of notion when we're talking about how we treat women and how we even treat those who are a minority, right? So not only are women affected, but those who are of a minority background are also more at risk for developing heart disease. And a lot of it has to do with our attention to what they have access to, right? And so understanding those disparities that exist within healthcare that are innately built in are also things that we have to be aware of. And so when I talk to my older adults and we start talking about our heart health, I'm a lot more mindful of what they actually have access to.
Yeah.
And so
And
so a lot of times, in my younger days, I would talk about, well, you got to go exercise and you got to go eat right and you got to go, Instead it's been more for me, just as I've aged.
Yeah.
Well, what do you have that can help you make a better choice?
Yeah.
Or what is it that I can instruct you with or help you with to get you to that point? And so what we're starting to find, number one, access to understanding what is a healthy food choice, and then being held accountable to that, right? And so for a lot of adults in a lot of different areas, if you're on a fixed income,
right,
what access do I have to eating food that's not going to be overprocessed or frozen or in a can, right? And what does that translate to? And so I think having access to understanding what nutritional health actually looks like is key. We talk about it all the time. Like we've lived this long. It can't be that bad, right?
Right.
But what are we doing from a nutritional perspective? And I think that's one part of it where I try to have that conversation. Then the other part to it is when we start talking about exercise, what access do you have when it comes to being physically active? And I think that also becomes an issue for a lot of adults. And the reason is because the initial thought is, well, I need to join a gym. Well, no, you don't need to join a gym. Or the other conversation is, well, I'll go outside and walk one day when it's not snowing, it's not cold, it's not too hot, it's not raining.
Right.
It's possibly the moon is out and
Right,
it's a lunar,
right. Yeah, I get it.
There's
Yep,
so many.
exactly.
There's so many
The
different.
day doesn't end in a Y.
Hey, right? Like, and so
Yeah.
and so you're just like, well, we've got to just do something,
Yeah.
right? And so you get to this point where you're having those conversations about activity and how that incorporates into your space, right? And so if I was to just kind of really just take a stab from a big view about how we would look at heart disease, I would say, the biggest concern that I have about heart disease for a lot of our older adults is going to be what they have access to. And then how do we work with them personally or work with them individually or even as a group as to how we can improve what they currently have before them to really get them to a heart healthy space.
I heard this kind of dovetails this, but I heard this piece on NPR yesterday while I was exercising and by the way, in my house, I just do stretches every morning for half an hour. I'm religious. Wednesday's my only day off because I have to get up so early to do the show. But it was, and I want to say it was a study out of Harvard, a recent study out of Harvard, and they were looking at, they said, we talk a lot about race and access to healthcare and so forth, but as important, if not more important, is actually social class and finances and what, across the board. It doesn't matter. And I thought to myself, that makes a lot of sense to me because, as you were saying, if you're on a fixed income, that's part of that, equation as well. What do people have access to? I think maybe part of our role, Dr. Lovelace, is to also figure out how do we help them to prioritize, given what you've got to work with, where you live, what your financial basis is, what you have access to, family supports or not, whatever. How can we help you to prioritize and I also look at it, especially with exercise, how can you just incorporate this into your everyday? And I remember one time working with the students at Westfield State on a project on don't give me stuff that they have to go out and buy. Like you have to get weights and you have to get a mat and you have to get this and that. It's like, what can they use in their home? How can they incorporate, and I remember years ago somebody saying, well, and I still do this to this day, like you can park in the farthest spot when you go into Stop and Shop or Big Y, and now you're walking the length of the parking lot and back and all through the store instead of the closest spot. It's like, well, yeah, there you go. And you just got, you get extra steps. So I think that there are ways to do that, but I think you're right especially as part of a medical team. In the old days, it was like, do this, do that, do that. Here's your instruction sheet. Go home and do all this. And
it's hard.
It is hard.
No, it's really hard. It's really hard to execute those kind of things consistently when we're talking about, because what are the key things that we're looking for a lot of times for heart health? Well, managing your blood pressure. And are you watching your blood pressure? Do you have a blood pressure cuff, right? Are you checking your blood pressure? Healthy weight. Do you have a healthy weight? And I understand there's a lot of pushback a lot of times where people are saying, well, if I got down to that weight, I will look blank. And I say, well, we should try and see what that looks like, right? We should see what that looks like because for all intents and purposes, and since I'm a sports person, I like to turn to sports a lot of times. And I say, well, listen, if that person that plays for the Patriots is 6'2" and they weigh 185 pounds. Do they look unhealthy? If that person is 6'7" and they are 210 pounds, do they look unhealthy? Right? So does it make sense if you're 5'10" and 250? Probably not, right? And so we have to put that in perspective. But at the same time, I also say, but I don't anticipate you wanting to lose 50 pounds in a day or 50 pounds in 2 weeks. This is a conscious effort where we have to redefine what we're going to look like in the future. And a lot of times what I tend to have to work with are the thoughts of the past. I have a lot of people that tell me what they used to weigh when they were in high school, even though they were probably in high school in the 60s. And I try to like bring in, well, how do we bring that piece of information into 2024?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I get kind of an excuse almost, where it's like, well, when I was 20, I used to be able to do blank, but I can't. And so then it turns into a conversation of, well, what can we do?
Right.
And what can we do today to make ourselves the healthiest version of ourselves? And I think being that conscious in that way is really important. And then stepping out and doing something that you don't normally do. And trying to reinvent your day-to-day process. Stress is a big issue that comes up a lot. And how do we manage our stress? Well, number one, it's trying to get rid of the things that kind of worry us.
Yeah,
right?
whatever those stressors are, the underlying
and for a lot of times, I heard there was this thought that came about where it says, what is worry? Worries are prayers that you don't want. So pray for things that you do want in your life. And I think that's an important conversation to have in your mind. But then after that, what are the things that you're going to set forward to really improving your health? And so sometimes it does require getting up a little bit earlier. Sometimes it does require to going to bed a little bit earlier. Sometimes it requires that you just have to pack your lunch instead of eating, eating out, for lunch instead. So there are these little things that we kind of just do. And usually it takes about 2 weeks to create a new habit. It also takes 2 weeks to get rid of a bad habit. And so having those kind of conversations about how you're redefining how you're living and existing and working towards what your future self is going to be can be so much more liberating, as opposed to kind of beating yourself up about what you've done in the past or what you even look like in the present.
Yeah.
And I think those are some exercises that I try to incorporate when I start talking about how do we live a healthier life. And more of a stress-free life. And it does work if you just stay with it. But it's hard to stay with it.
It is. And I think the other thing is, when people say, how am I going to look, or what does that look like? I think my response to that would be like, I'd be more curious about how you're going to feel. Because I think that as people get into it, they just start to feel better. They physically feel better, but they also feel better about themselves. And then, I notice, I don't know, I find that, especially with the staff at the senior center, I don't know if you see it with your own staff, but, if someone is trying to get into a better lifestyle, having the support of others, and it's like this magnet, then others are sort of saying, yeah, I should really be doing that too. The next thing you know, you have 2 or 3 people taking a walk at lunchtime together, bundling up and going out. We have a group that, does that every day, which is awesome. Then, somebody said, hey, if we have a late opening, do you want to go into the fitness room, and do stretches for half an hour, and I think that, the negativity can also breed negativity, but the positive stuff can also breed positive stuff. And I think that you can, surround yourself with other people that are saying, hey, that's a good idea. And hey, that looks like it'd be more fun if we did it together. Let's do it together. So,
and I agree. The community matters.
Yeah.
Right? The community matters when we're talking about the health of a population of people. And to our point about your demographic based on your finances, it does matter when you have sidewalks, when you have parks that have tracks on them, when there is a place where you can ride your bike safely, when there is an opportunity to play in the park without worrying about any type of violence, right?
Yeah.
Like all of those things actually add up, because we're not supposed to be in our homes for 18 to 20 hours, right? We're supposed to be outside and getting that sunlight, and we're supposed to be active and moving around. And there is something to that really helps.
Yeah.
I have a lot of seniors that come in and tell me, I move better when I'm in Florida, or I move better when I'm in Puerto Rico. And so, well, why is that? Well, it's a little bit warmer and it's sunny out. And so just getting outside and moving around, I think, is key. And so having access to those things is extremely important. So as we look at heart health awareness, I think some of the key things that we have to make sure that we're really paying attention to is access to nutritional foods? How are we doing when we're actually monitoring our blood pressure? What are our risks for developing heart disease, whether it's due to weight, diabetes, smoking? We haven't even talked about that. And then after that, it then turns into, from a community perspective, what is available within your community, and how can the community itself be a little bit more open to allowing for a healthier population? I think all those things are extremely key when we talk about heart health going forward, because when someone's impacted by heart health, it not only affects the family, but it affects the community, because now we have someone that may not be able to do the job that's very necessary to keep the community going, and that's key.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to take a short break. A lot to think about, a lot to sort of digest. So let's take a short break. You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. If you're just joining us, my guest this morning is Dr. Akinyele Lovelace, primary care physician with Family Medical Associates here in Westfield. So, we had pick a few heart songs here. So I chose, for the first one, I chose Smokey Robinson doing One Heartbeat. We'll be back.
Beautiful.
Why do they say love is blind? Slow down, we don't have to move fast, 'cause the love that is real is made to last. Take it one heartbeat at a time. Close your eyes and let your soul unwind. Sooner or later, it'll all fall in line if we take it one heartbeat at a time. One heartbeat.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:46. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and in the studio this morning is Dr. Akinyele Lovelace, primary care physician with Family Medicine Associates. I don't know why I keep messing that up. Welcome again.
I just want to say I miss saxophone solos in songs.
Isn't that song was so great? I know. I chose that just for you.
Oh,
got a little smooth, kind of smoky.
That was my. Hey, listen, I told you I wanted to be a smooth jazz radio DJ at some point in this lifetime, and that's going to happen. Yeah. And so that would have been a great interlude.
It would have been. That was a great song. So we are discussing heart today. And heart health. And I want to pick up on something that you said earlier, Dr. Lovelace, which you mentioned blood pressure.
Yeah.
Now, I know I have seniors going, well, there's cardiac stuff like, a heart attack. And then blood pressure that's a different category, but it's not a different category. No. So explain how the two are related.
Oh, my. Yeah, they definitely are absolutely related in so many different ways, right? But I do understand. I do understand.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Because for some people, when they look at their blood pressure medications, and if they're really paying attention, they'll see that some of the blood pressure medications work on the kidneys, right? And some of the other blood pressure medications actually work on your arteries, right? And then there are other medications that work on your heart. And sometimes some of the patients that'll come in, they'll say, well, this is my heart med, and this is my blood pressure medication, right?
Right.
And I definitely understand that concept, and that's okay, right? But we do have to understand that high blood pressure or hypertension has a huge effect on the heart, and it does come from the heart to a certain extent. And how is that possible? Well, if we think about sipping through or I always like to equate it to when we used to drink out of a water fountain, right?
Right,
so when you drink out of the water fountain, it's nice, it's delicate. You could sip all day. Sometimes you put your mouth on it, and that's kind of how you get cold sores. But we're not going to talk about cold sores. What we're going to talk about is, well, then you imagine that, right? And so imagine drinking out of a water fountain. Then you think about, well, I see that power washer over there that's washing that house. Let me go try to drink out of that, right? And that doesn't sound so appealing, right? Because there's going to be a lot of potential ripping and tearing, and that may not feel so good, right? I equate that also to how we look at our heart, right? And so your heart has to kind of push blood through your body, right? And so if it's really tight, or if you've got your finger over that nozzle and now the water is coming out really fast, over time, it's going to try to push harder. Mm-hmm. And the heart itself is a muscle, so it will get bigger, right? And it's going to really try to work through and push and push and push. But over time, over decades and years, it starts to wear down sooner than it should.
Okay.
And that's where the problem can come about. And so the heart as a muscle can start to wear down just with age and time, and then ultimately it doesn't perform as good as it should. But what ultimately happens is then those arteries also get hard, or they have to get tenser because they want to maintain this pressure now. And they want to maintain the ability to push that blood throughout the body. And so now you went from having a body that was supporting itself by just drinking out of a water fountain that now has to really function as a power washer throughout the entire body. And so now this power washer is moving throughout our body at a very high pace. And if it's going through our arteries and going through our organs, it's going to cause a problem for prolonged periods of time. And so what we're starting to recognize and realize is that hypertension or high blood pressure for an extended period of time can be very detrimental to all of our organs within our body. And that's why we've even started to identify or want to look at blood pressure even earlier and diagnosing people with hypertension even in their 40s and sometimes in their 30s now. And so we're becoming a lot more aware of the effects of hypertension and high blood pressure and its overall effects. And when you have that kind of elevated blood pressure consistently, the damage that it causes over time. And so that is the relationship between hypertension and your heart.
In your heart. And what causes people to have high blood? Why would one person have high blood pressure and one person wouldn't?
Well, for some people, they have a predisposition for it.
Okay.
And if you're fairly young, sometimes there are underlying issues when it comes to your kidneys, or it can be a hormone issue.
Okay.
Or you could actually have a heart condition that you're born with.
Okay.
The majority of adults, especially after the age of 50, it tends to deal with the wear and tear of living this lifestyle that we live in the Western Hemisphere, where it has a lot to do with our diet. It has a lot to do with our stress levels. It has a lot to do sometimes for those who smoke cigarette smoking. And for others, it has a lot to do with cholesterol. And so all those things kind of build up over time, and they cause you to develop hypertension. And so that's what we're tending to see in our population when we're talking about the causes for high blood pressure.
Okay. And so, one of those topics is fodder for future discussions on the show, which
always.
I think,
But it's all relatable, right? It's all relatable, and it always comes back to how does this affect our body, right? Because we're not just one organ existing. We're a wonderful machine that requires a lot of different parts to move at the same time in harmony in order for us to just do what we normally do.
And you know what? I also want to pick up, Dr. Lovelace, on something else that you kind of touched on a little bit, but how do genetics play into heart disease or heart issues? Because especially when we see younger people who, we think of even athletes. It's like, okay, well, they're leading a pretty healthy lifestyle. How does genetics play into it?
Well, some of us have a predisposition for how our muscle fibers are composed and made.
Okay.
And for some of us, the way these fibers are made or how they develop as we continue to grow can cause abnormalities in the shape of our heart. Right.
Okay.
So a lot of times we hear about athletes who have heart conditions, that's normally what we see.
Yeah.
Also, for some of the athletes, and a lot of times you'll see this in very tall athletes, right? Traditionally, we see it in a lot of basketball players, is that there is a certain types of genetic predispositions where the connective tissue within our body is a little bit different.
Okay.
And so that causes a different type of stress on the heart, not necessarily stress on the heart, but the connections that are required to maintaining the structure of the heart tend to wear away a lot sooner in life.
Okay.
And so those happen. And so there are genetic predispositions that some people are born with that cause them to have heart conditions. And so, yes, that does happen, and that's why you do see it a lot of times in younger people. That's why there's pediatric cardiology, right? There's a whole entire field that deals with that. And a lot of times there are things that we're just born with. So we're very fortunate if you make it to 50 and you're just diagnosed with a little bit of hypertension. You've made it. You've definitely... ring of honor.
I think too, sometimes, when we see heart problems within families, sometimes you wonder, is it a genetic component or a lifestyle, just because that's kind of the way that we were brought up, and, whether it's diet, whether it's exercise, whether it's smoking. I mean, there are all kinds of, factors that there are just a lot of different causes. I would think as a physician, you've got to sort of tease all that stuff out.
Well, nature versus nurture. I think that's always been a great conversation to have when we're talking about our predispositions. And being aware of our predispositions are very key. And I think that really helps us make decisions about how we just approach our health when it comes to heart disease. Before the age of 50, we're definitely looking at it. So if there's a family history of heart death, specifically before the age of 50, we are a lot more attentive to just kind of making sure that we're finding and working on those risk factors. If you have a family that traditionally everyone seems to have a heart problem or a heart issue later in their life, we're talking in their 70s we're talking in their 80s. A lot of times that's more about what we were eating coming up. What were we doing? What were the type of meats we were consuming?
Yeah.
What were the type of breads that we were consuming? How was our alcohol intake? And were we smokers, or were we secondhand smokers in the house? And so that's when those things also play a role. And that's a lot of times how we tease out whether or not it's your genetics, right? Nature, or is it nurture, right? And they obviously, the lines blur.
Yeah. I was thinking as you were speaking about a book that I remember reading for my cardiac rehab class when I was in grad school. So that was back in the 80s. I can't remember exactly the name of the book, but it had to do with type A personalities, type B personalities. You got into that whole, stress level and, climbing to the top and just success in however you define it, not necessarily financial, but just that lifestyle of eating on the fly, kind of exercising when you can, lunches out with the corporate sponsors, and and I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, it is so true that you can really get wrapped up in that that kind of lifestyle.
And to your point about stress levels, I think that's the point of it. I think for those who have that type A personality, I encourage that energy. I think that's excellent energy.
Yeah.
I think where that energy is placed is amazing if it's placed in the right location. So if you're type A about getting up in the morning and getting your exercise routine in at 5 a.m., if you're type A about making sure that you're in the bed before 10 p.m., I think that's great. And if you're type A about what your nutrition statuses are, I think that's excellent. I have no problem with that. I think a lot of times when we're talking about our stress levels, it's being able to identify the stressors that are there.
Yeah.
And how do we work through those?
Yeah.
I think that's the key conversation here. I never want to, when we talk about the personality type A or type B, I never wanted to make that a bad thing either. Right.
I agree. I think
I celebrate that.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, for me, I think a lot of stress has to do with control. I feel like it's, what do I have control over and what do I not? I stress less about things that I have control over, because I feel like, okay, I can work through that. It's the things that I personally don't have any control over that, and I know a lot of people are like that. We work with seniors. They worry about their grandchildren. They worry about, it's like, well, what do you have control over your part of the relationship with your grandchild, for whatever that's worth. But there are certain aspects that you don't have control over. And that, there's a whole other topic dealing with stress. And there's one other thing that I just wanted to touch on, because you didn't mention it at all. So I'm going to ask the question, is diabetes a risk factor for heart issues?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So another thing that we need to pay attention to.
Absolutely. It's its own risk factor within itself. You have a hugely increased risk of having heart problems if you are a diabetic.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Well, I'm going to do a little commercial here we do have a diabetes support group, a diabetes support and education group at the Senior Center. They meet, and I'm bringing it up now because they meet on the last Tuesday of the month. So they'll be meeting next Tuesday, 1:30 to 2:30.
Awesome.
There's no charge. There are no signups in advance. It's facilitated by Jennifer Jaffoon, who is a dietitian who's been in the field forever. And I met Jen initially because she was running the diabetes support group at Noble Hospital when it was just Noble, before Bay State took over. And I was invited as a guest presenter just, for Senior Center and our fitness offerings and so forth. So Jen's been doing this a long time. And what I like about Jen is, because she's been in the field for a very long time, and I've sort of seen her transformation, just like you were saying, your conversations with your patients now are different than they were when you were younger, and you got to do this, you got to do that, as opposed to, let's see where you're coming from and then let's see how we can. And that's, Jen's approach is very, let's keep it simple. Families are invited, because one of the things that we know about people with diabetes, especially if it's the guys, they're not doing the food prep, the wife is. So we need to get everybody on board and kind of make it a family affair, so that it's like, okay, what's safe? What's a better choice? This month's topic, and Jen has a different topic every month that she focuses on. And I try to put that in the newsletter so people know ahead of time. So this month's topic, which I love, is how do I take some of those old family recipes that I love, but now I can't have any of that because I'm a diabetic. How do we take those and make some substitutions and alter those and some of our everyday favorite foods to make them so that you can have them, so that it's not just like an all or nothing where you can't eat this ever again for the rest of your life because you have diabetes. So that's kind of how Jen approaches it. She's had some fascinating topics, and I try to she usually has handouts. I try to put those in our information session center out in the Fireside Lounge so people who couldn't make it. She had one on how do you go on vacation and, how do you do that and either eat out or if you're doing like a bed and breakfast or whatever, how do you do that and make it more diabetes friendly? So anyway, that group is Tuesday, this coming next Tuesday from 1:30 to 2:30 at the Senior Center. So hopefully we can, we have fitness classes, to your point, Dr. Lovelace, on, the exercise piece of it. And one of my things about our fitness classes is we try to make them affordable for folks. So, they're on average, if you sign up in advance for some of those classes, it averages out to about $3 a class. So we try to, make those affordable. But we also have a lot of seniors who on their own go, they'll drive up to Stanley Park and they'll walk the park. We have some great resources in Westfield.
We do.
We have the track at the college, and some people don't know you can use that at certain hours. There are certain hours, not when the students, but the students aren't rolling out of bed too early.
No,
so we have some seniors that get up there early. Dr. Lovelace, this was fine. It gave us, some opportunities for some future topics that we can really delve into a little bit more. But thank you so much for joining us.
Absolute
it is
pleasure.
7:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back after this.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at Rockies.com.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:05. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So, Pete, I was driving in this morning, and I was coming down Route 20, and I looked. I don't know if you noticed it where you were coming from, but the moon, which is super full, was so low in the sky that when I first saw it, I thought it was like an object. You know, like I was like, what is that up there? It was just as I was coming past Planet Fitness, and the Shortstop Bar and Grill was right there, and it looked like it was right around Home Depot, and I thought, it just looked like I was going to drive right onto the moon. That's how low it was. It was so weird. I've never seen it that low.
I've been noticing it's very clear in the daytime, too, right now. The sky's been so clear that it's very visible. And, you know, we're coming up, we're less than just over a month away from the eclipse.
The eclipse. Do you know, I have one of my seniors, we were just talking about this yesterday. Yeah, what is it, like April 8th, I think?
It is April 8th, yes.
Because one of my seniors has, I think her daughter and son-in-law like own a bed and breakfast in the Adirondacks, and she'll go and spend time there. Well, she's going back. She just got back, but she's going back in order to get a better view of the eclipse, because she said they'll really be able to see the whole thing. I think that's the coolest thing ever. That
Kenny and I are heading to New York.
Are you? Yeah, and that's
around the Watertown area.
Yeah, how cool.
So we picked our spot. I mean, the weather in New England and New York and the Midwest is kind of a crapshoot in the spring.
Yeah, you don't know.
So we're going to give it a shot.
We
wanted to go to Texas, but we couldn't afford it. So
So what? So now, what time, Pete? Do you know?
I think the peak is going to be around 2:20 in the afternoon.
Okay.
But there's an hour and a half on either end. So as it starts to eclipse, then you have totality, and then the waning eclipse.
Yep.
So we have solar filters for the cameras. We have all kinds of stuff, and we have a couple of good spots that we picked out.
I love it.
We're going to stay the night before. We're going to stay up in the area because it's a 4-hour drive.
Yes.
4.5.
Yep.
So we're going to stay up there the night before, have a nice day, and then as soon as the eclipse is over, we're going to hightail it back. So that's the plan.
All right. So, the $1 million question is, who picked where you're staying, you or Kenny? Please tell me it was you.
I did.
Okay.
Well, and it was tough because in the path of totality, you can't find a hotel room anywhere. Anywhere. Into the Ohio. I looked into the Ohio Valley.
Oh my goodness.
I looked into.
So what'd you do?
We found something about an hour away.
Okay.
At the Turning Stone Casino, because we knew there'd be several hotels. Right around the casino. So.
And the travel group, are the Whip City Travelers. They've gone to Turning Stone several times.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's about an hour away from the locations that we were looking at.
Okay.
So that's where we're going to set up
not
shop, and we can have breakfast, and then still
Yes.
find our spot and camp out for the day.
Yeah.
That type of thing. Bring a cooler and snacks and stuff like that.
I give you and Kenny a lot of credit. You guys are just, you're just the roadsters going out to all of these different, cool events that are going on.
Well, I mean, we like to bring things like
yes.
we can give. I'll probably give the footage to the any of the science teachers that want to talk. You now have really good video of the eclipse.
That is very
That's
cool.
in-house.
Yeah.
That you don't have to rely on somebody else for.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, I really wanted to go to Texas because I found a replica Stonehenge that literally is on the center line. So I don't know if they built it knowing that the eclipse was coming in 2024. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if they built it that way or just happenstance. But
now, when was the last time we had? I mean, I can remember this as a kid.
We had one in 2017.
Okay.
The next one's not
next
one's not till 2045.
All right.
So it's a good chunk.
It's a few years away.
Right. My kid will be closer to my age than he.
Right. Exactly. I know that exactly in my head. I'm like, all right. So 20 years from now, I will. Okay.
Right. Exactly. So
I may be looking at it from a nursing home room or something.
In 2017, I went. I was right after it was right in the middle of my divorce. Yeah. I did a road trip. I went to Madisonville, Kentucky, and saw it from Kentucky. And I picked the best spot apparently in the country because NASA was set up right down the street at a community college. So
No
I knew I
kidding.
picked a good spot.
And weather was good. I don't remember the 2017
We had really good weather. There was
weather.
a couple of clouds in the sky, and it
Okay.
was in August, so it was hot.
Okay. Yeah.
But I heard that Delta is setting up a special flight that you can pick up in Austin, Texas, and fly in the shadow, the path of totality, and it's pacing the totality. So you're flying at the same speed as the shadow is traveling across the earth, and you get off in I think it's Chicago or Pittsburgh or something. And there's a couple of other different companies. There was an article listed these flight numbers. If you wanted to get on for a one-way flight, you could be in the path of totality most of the time and look out the windows and get a good view of the eclipse from your window, being in totality for several hours.
That's kind of
That's
amazing.
wild.
Yeah, that is wild. I
That's
can't imagine what those
wild.
flights are going to cost.
And I know Delta, I think it was like $500. It wasn't
Okay,
horrible.
well, that's not ridiculous. I thought it,
And Delta for this specific flight that they set up just for the eclipse picked a plane, an Airbus 330 that had bigger windows than any other plane in their fleet.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, wow.
Well, you have to
really
give them credit.
about
Yeah,
it.
you have to give them credit for thinking outside the box. That is a really neat idea.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Yep.
All right, today is February 21st. So usually when I do my famous birthdays, one of my favorite websites is called On This Day. And, so they have birthdays and all that stuff. But they also have some anniversaries. So I thought it would be kind of fun. One caught my eye, and I said, oh, well, let me look up a few what happened on this day. So I chose 3. One of them, my family was absolutely hysterical over. So the first one is that on this date in 1969, Apple Records releases Mary Hopkins' debut album, Postcard, in the UK, produced by Paul McCartney. Now, the biggest hit on that album was the song Those Were the Days, which we're going to play in just a few minutes on our break. And I had to talk a little bit about this one because my grandfather at that time, back in 1969, was in his 60s, 70s maybe. He loved the song by Mary Hopkins, Those Were the Days. And, that was considered rock and roll, even though it wasn't really rock and roll. It was more like folk. But so I'm going to play that in a few minutes just for my grandfather because he was I just absolutely had such a special relationship. It was my mom's dad. So Grumps, that one is going to be for you. And then on this day in 1970, the Jackson 5 made their television debut on American Bandstand, and the song that they sang was I Want You Back. I, of course, had to go YouTube that one, and it is absolutely hysterical to see, Michael Jackson, whatever, at the age of whatever he was, 9 or 10 or whatever it was. It was a riot. But this is the one that my family thought was hilarious. And there's only so much that I could find about this. Mm-hmm. So in 1979, on this day, February 21st, 2 Iowa girls high school basketball team played 4 scoreless quarters. So an entire high school basketball game with no one scoring a basket. So therefore, it went into overtime. It didn't go into 1 overtime, 4 overtimes.
Holy cow.
And finally, the winning team won 4-2. Well, Grace was absolutely laughing her head because Grace, of course, played basketball. She played AAU basketball. She said, I cannot imagine sitting through a game, an entire basketball game. Each quarter is 15 minutes. So of nobody scoring a basket and then 4 overtimes. I looked it up because I wanted to know, who were the team? Well, you couldn't find who the teams were. Nobody was putting that on the internet. That was way back in 1979. So there are your on this day anniversaries. Well, let's do one famous birthday before we take our 7:15 break. So it is the birthday of Mary Chapin Carpenter. She was born on this day in 1958 in Princeton, New Jersey. She's 68 years old today. Mary Chapin Carpenter's most successful album is 1992's Come On, Come On, which accounted for 7 singles and certified quadruple platinum in the United States. Carpenter has won 5 Grammy Awards from 18 nominations, including 4 consecutive wins in the category of Best Female Country Vocal Performance between 1992 and 1995. She charted 27 times on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart with her 1994 single Shut Up and Kiss Me, representing her only #1 single there. Her musical style takes influence from contemporary country and folk, with many of her songs including feminist themes. She has sold more than 12 million records worldwide. On October 7th, 2012, Mary Chapin Carpenter was inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. She is the 5th cousin of the late Harry Chapin. I never really made that connection, Mary Chapin Carpenter. I wouldn't have really even thought about that. And I said, oh, there you go. And she also wrote songs for fellow folk singer Joan Baez back in the day. So happy 66th birthday to Mary Chapin Carpenter. It is 7:15. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor of the Apple Records release of Mary Hopkins' debut album Postcard with the very famous song Those Were the Days, and for my grandfather, rest his soul, we're going to listen to Those Were the Days by Mary Hopkins. We'll be back.
Once upon a time there was a tavern where we used to raise a glass or two. Remember how we laughed away the hours. Think of all the great things we would do. Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we'd choose. We'd fight and never lose. For we were young and sure to have our way. Da 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 Then the busy years went rushing by us. We lost our starry notions on the way. If by chance I'd see you in the tavern, we'd smile at one another and we'd say, those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the life we'd choose. We'd fight and never lose. Those were the days, oh yes, those were the days. Da 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 Just tonight I stood before the tavern. Nothing seemed the way it used to be. In the glass I saw a strange reflection. Was that lonely woman really me? Those were the days, my friend, we thought they'd never end. We'd sing and dance forever and a day. We'd live the
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardie siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:22. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So, we've had some more winners for our calendar raffle, the Friends of the Westfield Senior Center calendar raffle. So let me tell you who's won what in the last week.
Okay.
So Steve Karlstrom won last Thursday. That was the $25 to Rocky's Ace Hardware. Now, this one I love. So we're doing a Friday special, right? So Fridays are $50 gift cards to Walmart. And the winner this past Friday was Christine O'Connell. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Christine O'Connell. So Christine O'Connell also won the Friends of the Westfield Senior Center lottery basket that we did around the holidays. And when she won that, because of course we always hear the same thing, I never win anything.
That's my mantra.
That's your mantra, right? So I said, okay, so she has now won that. Now she won one of the 50 Fridays. So I never want to hear from Christine O'Connell again that she never wins anything because she's gotten 2 big prizes. The next day, Saturday, $25 to Big Y, Ed Ekmalian. Ed is on the Westfield Council on Aging Board of Directors.
Okay.
And Ed and his wife, Reggie, are 2 of the luckiest people. They're like Grace. They seem to win all kinds of stuff. But congratulations to Ed. And then the next day, on the 18th, we had a $25 gift card to Chrissy G's Bakery. And that was won by Irene Fitzpatrick. Irene has taken some fitness classes with us, comes through the lunch line, super, super sweet person. The next day, this was great, $25 gift card to Westfield Barber Company was won by Bob Mason. And Bob is one of our treasured volunteers. He helps direct traffic on Tuesdays and Thursdays at lunch. And then he's also Joyce Peregrine's right-hand person. He does a lot of computer work for Joyce on figuring out mileage for our volunteers and the companion program and so forth. So we were super happy that Bob won. And then Sam Mezajewski won another $25 to Big Y yesterday. Sam is Kathy Millis's brother. So here's what was really funny. So Kathy Millis, who's the treasurer and the clerk of the Friends Board, bought tickets for her family. So we called her brother yesterday to tell him he won, and he said, "Well, how could I win? I didn't buy a ticket. How did I win? I didn't buy a ticket." And Kathy's sister Fran St. Peter is the one who is our part-time clerk now in the morning. So Kathy's mom won, I think 2 weeks ago, and now her brother won. So good winnings on that family. And today's winner, if you're listening, $25 gift card to Dunkin', is Beverly Devine. And Beverly is at the Senior Center usually a few times a week. So participating in different programs. And I think Wednesday she might come for the Sassy Stitchers. So we'll catch her this morning. But congratulations, Beverly Devine. You are our winner today, $25 to Dunkin', which is great because I think she lives right in one of the senior. She might be over at Alice Burke Way. So nice and close to be able to pick up your prize. All right, stay tuned. We still have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more winners to go. So it's been a lot of fun. The winners have had a great time and all good. All right, let's do a couple of February 21st birthdays. Today's the birthday of Kelsey Grammer, film, theater, and television actor. Kelsey Grammer was born on this day in 1955 in St. Thomas. He was born in the Virgin Islands. He is 69 years old. You know, I have to say, for somebody who does comedy and sitcoms, we know Cheers and Frasier and all of that good stuff, he has had a tremendous amount of tragedy in his life, especially early on. Following the shooting death of his father when he was a boy, Grammer was raised in New Jersey and Florida. And I believe the circumstances was that his father owned a cafe or a restaurant or something like that on St. Thomas. And it was after I want to say it was after Martin Luther King was shot. There was something that happened down there. You know, there were all kinds of riots that broke out all over the place. And literally, like, his dad was kind of caught in the crossfire. So he lost his father when he was younger. Then tragedy continued when his sister was abducted and violently murdered when Kelsey Grammer was only 20. And
Wow.
this was like, it was brutal. It was bad. And it was actually by almost like a serial killer. Because I kind of looked up the circumstances, which we don't have to talk about. But it was, it really left a mark on him because he and his sister were really close. He was the one who identified his sister's body. And when he was 20, he had to go in and identify the body and then tell his mother what happened. According to Grammer himself, his bouts with alcoholism and drug abuse were fueled in part by guilt and depression due to his sister's death, as the pair had been very close in childhood. 5 years later, he lost two half-brothers in a diving accident. They were together. So, I mean, you know, his father, his sister, two half-brothers by the time he was 25.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it really was sad. But as a young man, Kelsey Grammer sought comfort in acting. After appearing on various television series and soap operas, he landed the role of Dr. Frasier Crane on the NBC sitcom Cheers in 1984. As Shelley Long's pompous, self-absorbed love interest, Grammer's character became a regular, and he stayed with the show until its finale in 1993. His character was resurrected with the spin-off Frasier the following year, moving from Boston to Seattle, where the psychiatrist hosted his own radio show. And that show ran from 1993 to 2004 and then again was resurrected in 2023.
Yeah, the writing is really, really good.
Is it?
Yes.
I've
seen it.
I have not seen the resurrected version.
It's on Paramount Plus.
Okay.
It's really good.
Good to know. At nearly 30 years on the air, this is one of the longest running roles, the role of Frasier, played by a single live action actor in television history. Yeah, I kind of believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Grammer has received numerous accolades, including a total of 6 Emmy Awards, 3 Golden Globe Awards, a Screen Actors Guild Award, and a Tony Award. He was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in the year 2000. So, happy 69th birthday to Kelsey Grammer.
And he's one heck of a narrator as well, because he's narrated a whole bunch of Civil War and Revolutionary War stuff for Fox Nation. And it's just awesome.
Yeah, he's got a great voice for that. I think he would be wonderful for that. All right, so we have a really kind of a fun birthday to talk about, but I'll save that one till after the break because it's kind of a little bit lengthy, and we're coming up on 7:30. It's 7:29 right now. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor of the birthday of Mary Chapin Carpenter, we're going to listen to her number one hit, Shut Up and Kiss Me.
untraceable. My reputation for cynicism. Been a jaded lady when it comes to love. Oh, baby, just to feel this feeling that everything that you do gives me. It's been too long since somebody whispered, ooh, shut up and kiss me. There's something about the silent tide attracting me to you. All business, baby, none of the hype that no talker can live up to. Come closer, baby, I can't hear. Just another whisper, if you please. Don't worry about the details, darling. You got the kind of mind I love to read. Talk is cheating, baby, time's expensive. So why waste another minute more? Life's too short to be so apprehensive. Love's as much the symptom, darling, as the cure. Oh, baby, when I feel this feeling, it's like the genuine voodoo hits me. It's been too long since somebody whispered, ooh, oh, baby, I can feel this feeling. Everything that you do gives me. It's been too long since somebody whispered, ooh, shut up and kiss me. Shut up and kiss me.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning.
From 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show.
Right here on WSKB 89.5.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:34. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
So I learned a lot because today is the birthday of Tom Yawkey, Major League Baseball executive. Born on this date in 1903 in Detroit, Michigan. He died July 9th, which was my dad's birthday, 1976, at the age of 73. So I thought, of course we have to talk about him, you know, Fenway Park and all that good stuff. I didn't really know the history.
Then
so
you dug into it a little bit?
I did dig into it a little bit. I have a little bit here that I just, you know, I the more I dug into it, the more fascinating it was. So first of all, he was born, Thomas Austin Yawkey was born Thomas Yawkey Austin. He was an American industrialist and Major League Baseball executive. When he was about 6 months old, his father died. And after his father's death, Yawkey and his mother moved to New York City to live with his uncle. Now, his uncle's name was William Yawkey. Throughout his life, Yawkey maintained a residence in New York City. In September 1918, William, his uncle, adopted 15-year-old Tom after Tom's mother died. I think that they must have been brother-sister.
Yep.
Okay. His last name then was changed to Yawkey after the adoption. So he switched the Austin and the Yawkey. Bill Yawkey, the uncle, died in 1919, and he left half of his $40 million estate to Tom. Now, a clause in the will created 2 trusts that he gained access to at ages 25 and 30. So so Tom Yawkey had to wait until he turned 25 and 30 to get the money. So Yawkey graduated from the Irving School in Tarrytown, New York in 1920, and then from the Sheffield Scientific School at Yale University in 1925. Having met as alumni of the Irving School, Yawkey and Eddie Collins, who was a former Philadelphia Athletics second baseman, discussed purchasing a baseball team in 1933 when Tom Yawkey was due to turn 30 and he would then gain full access to his fortune. Collins found a potential target in the Boston Red Sox, who had spent the better part of a decade and a half as one of the worst teams in baseball. By the 1932-1933 offseason, former owner Bob Quinn was so strapped financially that he had to borrow against his life insurance in order to send the team to spring training. So Collins arranged a meeting between Quinn, the owner of the Red Sox, and Tom Yawkey during the 1932 World Series. Collins later agreed to come to the Red Sox if Yawkey purchased the team. On February 25th, 1933, which was 5 days after Tom Yawkey turned 30 and gained access to his fortune that was left to him by his uncle, he bought the Red Sox for $1.25 million. He became team president, giving Eddie Collins control of the day-to-day operations as vice president and general manager, which was a post that Collins held until 1947. Yawkey inherited a team that had finished the 1932 season with a record of 43 and 111, the worst in franchise history. However, at one stroke, the Red Sox had gone from having one of the poorest owners in baseball to easily the richest.
Sure, yeah.
Determined to get the Red Sox out of the basement right away, Yawkey and Collins attempted to build a successful team by acquiring talented players. Tom Yawkey also spent $1.5 million on repairs to Fenway Park, giving it much of its present look, which is probably why we have Yawkey Way now.
Yeah, right.
Now I understand. Under Yawkey, the Jimmy Fund became the official charity of the team in 1953. Yawkey was elected chairman of the Jimmy Fund's Board of Trustees and helped establish the tradition of the Red Sox playing exhibition games to raise money for the fund. So now I know how that tradition started.
Okay.
Yawkey spent millions over the course of his life attempting to build winning teams. The Red Sox won the American League pennant in 1946, 1967, and 1975, but then went on to lose each World Series against the St. Louis Cardinals and the Cincinnati Reds. So Yawkey never achieved his goal of winning a world championship during his lifetime. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1980. So happy birthday to Thomas Austin Yawkey. Pretty cool story.
Yeah.
Pretty cool guy. And you know what was so interesting about that story was, sure, you know, he was, I mean, one of the teams that was up for sale was the Red Sox because they were, you know, they were just so poor.
They had to sell Babe Ruth.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. So interesting. All right. It is also the birthday of, well, we got to do this one. I'll do this short one. It is the birthday of the late Jean Calment, supercentenarian. She was born on this day in 1875 in France, and she died August 4th, 1997, at the age of 122. French supercentenarian who lived until age 102, which at the time was the longest verified human lifespan in history. She sold colored pencils to Vincent van Gogh at age 13 and found him to be dirty, badly dressed, and disagreeable, which kind of goes with what we know about Vincent van Gogh. Jean Calment, the supercentenarian, credited her extraordinary longevity to olive oil, which she used generously on her food and skin, as well as a diet of port wine and about 1 kilogram of chocolate a week. So there it is. You want to live to 122? Olive oil.
A kilo of chocolate? Wow. That's a
1
lot.
kilogram of chocolate a week. I don't know how much a kilogram is. What poundage wise, what is that?
I think it's
like
a kilo to pound. I think it's like 2/3 of a pound.
wow, that is a whole bunch of chocolate a week. You got to figure this out. Pete's going to look that up. So that's it. Olive oil on your food and skin.
No, 1 kilo is 2.2 pounds.
Really?
Really?
Holy smokes.
That's a lot of chocolate.
That is a lot of chocolate. I don't know what else. She must have been doing a whole lot of exercise. All right. So happy birthday to her. Somewhere around the... Oh, here we go. All right. I will do one more birthday. It is the birthday of the late Helen Octavia Dickens. Helen Octavia Dickens was a physician, medical and social activist, researcher, health administrator, and health educator. She was born on this day in 1909 in Dayton, Ohio. She died December of 2001 at the age of 92. After graduating from high school, Dickens was accepted at Crane Junior College in Chicago and was later accepted at the University of Illinois College of Medicine in Chicago. She graduated in 1934 as the only African American woman in a class of 137 students. So that was, let's see, it doesn't say what year. Okay. So she graduated in 34. So what's interesting to me is that when we did the ghost tours, the reason that I found this whole thing so fascinating was because when we did the ghost tours, I played Dr. Anjanette Fowler Noble. Mm-hmm. And she was a female physician who had graduated from medical school in the late 1800s. And at that time, so I ended up doing a lot of research on female physicians who were, obviously definitely in the minority. And so, and there were medical schools that opened up just for women, because if they didn't get accepted into the ones with men. And then there were hospitals that opened up with just female physicians because the women that were graduating from these all-female medical schools couldn't get residency into the hospitals with the men.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
there was this whole thing that was going on at that time. So this fascinated me about Helen Octavia Dickens because not only was she female, but obviously African-American woman. So after graduating, she performed her residency in obstetrics at Providence Hospital in Chicago from 1933 to 1935, and then joined Dr. Virginia Alexander in a birthing home practice in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for 7 years. After additional training at the University of Pennsylvania Graduate School of Medicine and another short time at Providence, Dr. Dickens was certified by the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology in 1945, the first African-American board-certified OBGYN in Philadelphia. That same year, she was appointed director of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at Mercy Douglas Hospital in Philly. She became a fellow of the American College of Surgeons in 1950 and joined the staff of Women's Hospital, later taken over by the University of Pennsylvania in 1951, where she was eventually named Chief of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Throughout her career, Dr. Dickens was a member of many professional societies and a recipient of numerous awards. She was also the first African-American woman to be admitted into fellowship in the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists. She had a long and influential career advocating for her patients and helping to pave the way for female African-American surgeons to follow. So happy birthday to the late Helen Octavia Dickens. And I try to keep this in perspective and just look at it from, I'm fascinated by some of these really strong women who, really were doing things that others weren't doing at a time when it was, she had every strike against her. She was female, she was African-American, she was smart and, really trying to make a difference. So my hat's off to her because sometimes when you read the personal stories of these people, it's just so impressive. And you have to put yourself back in that time,
Sometimes it's about perseverance. Sometimes it's about just saying, not taking no for an answer. And sometimes it's all of the above.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in a lot of cases, Pete, it's all of the above, and sometimes too, and I didn't do a deep dive into family and so forth, but sometimes too, just that's just what Dr. Lovelace and I were talking with, the importance of your support system and your family, and who is your in your cheering section, so. All good stuff. All right, it is 7:46. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor, this is the anniversary of the Jackson 5 debut on American Bandstand, their television debut on American Bandstand back in 1970 or something. So we're going to play I Want You Back. This is the song they sang. We'll be back.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:50. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So we have a few senior center announcements on some things that are happening, just some reminders. So first of all, probably one of the most important for this month is we did make a change to the brown bag program. on the distribution. And we made that change, and then we had a snowstorm on the day. So we had to make another change for this month. So everyone is so confused about this, and I just want to kind of set the record straight. So beginning next month, distribution will be on the second Tuesday of the month from 1:45 to 2:15 in the afternoon. So please make arrangements for that. So that will be next month. It'll be March 12th. This month, it was supposed to be February 13th. And unfortunately, we had a snow day on February 13th. Well, we actually had a snow day without much snow, but be that as it may, we still had to postpone our distribution for brown bag. So just for this month, special case, it will be held next Tuesday on the 27th, February 27th. Time is the same, 1:45 to 2:15. So we're no longer doing distribution in the morning. It's now the afternoon of the day that we get the food, so that hopefully everything is a little fresher for you. So again, just for this month, this is a postponement because of the snow. Tuesday, February 27th, 1:45 to 2:15. And then next month, it'll be back on its regular time. So it'll be literally, you'll get it. And then 2 weeks later, you'll get the March brown bag. That's just kind of, we live in New England. So those are the kind of things that happen in New England. We get snow, we get ice, we get all kinds of crazy weather. We are in the throes of our new meal registration process, which we started a couple of weeks ago. So as a reminder, you have to register for meals in advance. You have to register at least by noon the business day before. So that means if you want a meal tomorrow, you have to register by noon today. You can register for the current week or any of the days on the following week. So today you can register for tomorrow, Friday, or any of the 5 days next week. And next week, you can register for any of the days next week and the following week. Eventually, Mike Squindo, the new executive director, would like to get it so that when the newsletter comes out, you can register for the whole month. We're not quite there yet, but that's the goal. That's where we're going. That's the goal. Now, that doesn't mean if you register for 2 meals next week, but you decide, well, you know what, I think I'd like to get a third, or I want to eat every day. That's fine, as long as you can always add to it, as long as you give us that notice in advance. So it has to be by noon the day before. Now, remember, on Friday, you would have to register for Monday. So if you want to get a meal on any of the Mondays, you have to register by noon on Friday. And if we have a holiday, which we did this week, if you want to get that meal on Tuesday, you've got to register by Friday. So it does, mean a little bit more advanced planning on your part, but it's giving our kitchen a better handle on the count. And hopefully the goal is that we don't sell out as quickly as we've done in the past, because they'll know in advance enough time to, to get their ingredients ready and so forth. Okay. We still have some tax appointments available, and I just finished writing the March newsletter. This will be an article in the newsletter. At this point, I think all of the appointments pretty much that are available will be in early April. So that's what's going to go in the newsletter. We may have a few more sprinkled in March for those of you that have called yesterday. We had a bunch of calls yesterday, and even on President's Day, I picked those up off of the message machine. But again, we have some availability, but at this point, I love that people are calling. It's like, well, can I have an appointment next week? It's like, yeah, no. The people who are scheduled for next week called 2 months ago. So it doesn't quite work that way. But the fact that we have any appointments available at this late date in February is amazing. And that's only because we have so many tax aid volunteers helping us out this year. And we so appreciate that. Again, for those who want to know what the process is all about, our Westfield Council on Aging Presents series is up and running on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoon at 2:45 on Channel 15, and of course always on YouTube. Dan Welsh, who is the local coordinator for our AARP program, really did a great overview of some of the new tax laws that are in place for your 2023 taxes. So, and I know people have been tuning in and watching that. So, again, that's a great educational tool. Even if you're doing your taxes yourself, Dan went over some information that was really helpful. So certainly tune in. And if you're having them done at the Senior Center, I kind of gave the overview of how that process works. So Feel free to check that up. Next Wednesday, a week from today, I believe. I just want to make sure I have this right. Yes, next Wednesday, a week from today, February 28th, we have signups for our spring fitness classes. And those classes will run from mid-March through the end of May. Dr. Lovelace was here earlier talking about heart health and obviously the importance of exercise. And, you don't have to go and join a gym and you don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars. The cost for this session for both Carol Palmer's Totally Fun Fitness classes, which meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Terry Summers' chair yoga classes, depending on which one. It's either a Monday, Wednesday class or a Tuesday, Thursday class. The cost is $55, and it comes out to about $3 a class. Actually, I think this time it's a little less because if it's on the bubble, we'll throw in like an extra class if it doesn't come out exactly to $3 a class. So we always give the break to the seniors. A reminder that we have hearing aid service offered at the Senior Center monthly, so the last Tuesday of every month, which is coming up next week. Jeff Halls from Bay State Hearing is with us. He will evaluate your needs on an individual basis, including accurate hearing screening. He'll do in-the-canal earwax inspection, hearing aid cleaning, and free minor repairs, including tubing replacements. The visits are about 15 minutes in length, but you do have to sign up in advance. Jeff is here 10 to 12 on the last Tuesday of the month. So certainly, give us a call. Evelyn Bristol, the nurse at the Senior Center, coordinates that schedule. So if you're interested in having Jeff check your hearing out, feel free, give Evelyn a call and get on the appointment calendar for next week. I mentioned earlier with Dr. Lovelace that our Diabetes Dialogue Support and Education Group will meet on Tuesday, and that is 1:30 to 2:30. It's free, no sign-ups. Feel free to join in. The topic, again, is altering some of your favorite recipes and how to make those substitutions in order to make them diabetic-friendly. Also, Moyer the lawyer, Brad Moyer, is at the Senior Center generally on the third Tuesday of the month, or the third Thursday of the month. He couldn't do the third Thursday this month, so he's actually going to be here tomorrow, February 22nd. He provides initial guidance on civil matters, estate planning, and probate. So if you just have a legal question that you want to ask Brad, he'll point you in the right direction. So, if you need to seek specialty, some kind of a special attorney, if it's a matter that is not really even appropriate for legal involvement, he'll let you know all of that. So feel free. Again, you do have to schedule an appointment just to get on the schedule, but he'll be at the Senior Center tomorrow. I believe he still has slots available. So just call the Senior Center, 562-6435, and just let them know that you'd like to talk to Brad. He does ask that when you call, you just give whoever's taking the message just a very brief thing on what you want to talk to him about. So just so that he can come prepared, whether it's a housing issue or whether it's a domestic issue, whatever it is. So. But it's a great service, and we certainly appreciate Brad, joining us then. Okay, I'm going to say one more thing, which is the Art Unlimited class. Elaine Lees is wanting me to get the word out that Thursdays the Art Unlimited group meets. We call it a judgment-free Art Unlimited group. You do not have to be an artist to participate in this art group. It's a lot of fun. The folks that are in there great, and you'll see in the display case on the front window, Elaine keeps changing up as the students do their art pieces. So I think we've gone from they did a Valentine one, and I think now they have snowmen, I think is the theme right now. So different things, different techniques, watercolor, painting, charcoals, they do all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested, you can just drop in too and talk to Elaine. She's there on Thursday afternoon, so please join us. It is 8 o'clock. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. I am signing off. Jen Jafune will be with us next week to do our Food for Thought segment. We've rescheduled Jen to the 4th Wednesday of the month. I was sort of trying to spread out some of my guests. So Jen will be here next week. And we'll be kind of following up on some of what Dr. Lovelace was talking about today, because it is Heart Month. So she'll be kind of doing a deep dive into some of the heart-related and food and eating for a healthier lifestyle. We'll see
I have
you
one
next
more
week.
Mary Chapin Carpenter for you to go out.
Okay, that sounds great.
From the same album.
Perfect.
Saturday night and the moon is out. I wanna head on over to the twist and shout. Find a two-step partner and a Cajun beat. When it lifts me up, I'm gonna find my feet. Out in the middle of a big dance floor. When I hear that fiddle, wanna beg for more. Wanna dance to a band from Louisiana tonight. And I never have a wander down to New Orleans. Never have drifted down a bayou stream. But I heard that music on the radio, and I swore someday I was gonna go down a Highway 10 past the Lafayette. There's a Baton Rouge, and I won't forget to send you a card with my regrets, 'cause I'm never gonna come back home. Saturday night and the moon is out. I wanna head on over to the twist and shout. Find a two-step partner and a Cajun beat. When it lifts me up, I'm gonna find my feet. Out in the middle of a big dance floor, and I hear that fiddle, wanna beg for more. Wanna dance to a band from Louisiana tonight. Hey. They got an alligator stew and a crawfish pie. A Gulf storm blowing into town tonight. Living on the Delta, it's quite sure. They got hurricane parties every time it blows. But here up north, it's a cold, cold rain, and there ain't no cure for my blues today. Except when the paper says Beausoleil is coming into town, baby, let's go down. It's Saturday night and the moon is out. I wanna head on over to the twist and shout. Find a two-step partner and a Cajun beat. When it lifts me up, I'm gonna find my feet. Out in the middle of a big dance floor, and I hear that fiddle, wanna beg for more. Wanna dance to a band from Louisiana tonight. Bring your mama, bring your papa, bring your sister too. They got lots of music and lots of room. When they play you a waltz from the 1910s, you're gonna feel a little bit young again. When you learn to dance with your rock and roll, you learn to swing with the do-say-do, but you learn to love at the fade-do-do when you hear a little shoulder blum. Saturday night and the moon is out. I wanna head on over to the twist and shout. Find a two-step partner and a Cajun beat. When it lifts me up, I'm gonna find my feet. Out in the middle of a big dance floor, when I hear that fiddle, wanna beg for more. Wanna dance to a band from Louisiana tonight. Hey, shit.
Reimagined.
Community Radio.